Court, we'll just welcome you this morning. All electronic devices should be switched off, excluding the tablet devices that you're using to view your committee packs. Just a brief overview of today's business. The committee will consider a proposal for a statutory rule relating to student financial support, and we'll have a departmental update on the Committee of the North West Regional College Action Plan. Members, apologies I've received at this moment in time for David McClarty. Have we any other apologies? Okay, members, chairperson's business. Just advise members that a press release was emailed to members regarding news that the Queen's University's final year dental student ranked #1 in the National Dental Foundation Training and Assessment Procedure, and Leonard Maguire from Dungannon has been ranked first among more than 1,200 final year dental students from across the UK's 16 dental schools and from dental schools in Europe who were assessed during the year's foundation training recruitment process. Members, as you agreed that we write a letter of congratulations from the committee? Okay, members agreed. Members, just going to advise members that there is training in a software package called OneNote, which will be rolled out next Wednesday in the Visitors Restaurant and on Thursday the 13th of March in room 115. OneNote is a software package which can be used for note taking and collecting, organising and sharing information on the ACERs. And the sessions will be held every half hour from 12 noon to 2 p.m. and are open to members, secretariat staff and party staff. So it's just another application that can be used on your ACER. Members, draft minutes of our last meeting are at page 6 of your pack. Just as members agreed that this is a true record of that meeting.
Agreed.
So I'll sign this. Sign must be incorrect. Members, minutes arising are at page 13. This minute in time, I've nothing specific apart from those that are agreed. Members agreed with those matters arising by accident. Okay, members, moving on then to correspondence, as at page 17 of your pack and also tabled. Members, at page 19 is correspondence from Mr Seamus Walsh of the Rotary Club requesting a meeting with the committee to discuss becoming involved in the Rotary Club Technology Tournaments competition in the South West Regional College Dungannon on the 7th of March. Members, if you're content, maybe I and the Deputy Chair meet with them and any other members that are interested, and we proceed with it that way.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Members, at page 21 is correspondence from the Committee for Finance and Personnel providing the Northern Ireland Audit Office report on sickness absence in the public sector. Members, any comment? No? Okay. Members, tabled at page 3 is the Northern Ireland Audit Office report on sickness absence in the public sector. The Committee for Finance and Personnel has suggested this committee may wish to obtain the views of the department and may wish to consider receiving a briefing from the Northern Ireland Audit official on the report. Members, just looking at the Employment and Learning department is quite high compared to some of the other ones. Are we content to take the recommendation from the Finance and Personnel Committee that we receive the comment from the department on it?
Agreed.
Okay. And do you want the briefing from the Audit Office on it?
Wouldn't do no harm, yeah.
Okay, schedule a briefing. Members, just actions as suggested are agreed unless indications to the contrary. Any other?
Nope.
Okay. Members, we've received one invitation which is tabled at page 82 of the packs, an invitation from the department to attend its public consultation stakeholder events on enabling success and new strategic framework to tackle economic inactivity in Northern Ireland. Members, the events are listed: Londonderry Millennium Forum on Tuesday the 13th of March, Cookstown's the Glenavon Hotel on Wednesday the 19th of March, and Belfast the Belfast Met E3 campus on Wednesday the 26th of March. Members, if any of you are intending to attend any of these, can you let the committee staff know just so we can inform the department?
Well, I'm hoping to be there on the Millennium Forum.
Okay. Members, draft forward work programme is at page 78 of your packs. The draft forward work programme is up until the 23rd of April. Other briefings may be scheduled as they arise. Members, are you content to note? Okay, members, moving on then to our first piece of item on the agenda today is the SL1. Members, SSL1 is the Education Student Support Number 2 Regulations, Northern Ireland 2009, Amendment Regulations for Northern Ireland 2014, and is at page 81 of your packs. Members, the Department proposes to make the statutory rule to amend the Principal Student Support Regulations to make provision for student financial support for students who hold a part-time level 4 or 5 qualification entering the first year of a degree course. Members, just this amendment was already in place in Wales, but it's not operational in England. It is proposed that the provisions will come into operation later in 2014, and members, the statutory rule is subject to negative resolution. Are members content with the proposals for the statutory rule?
Content?
Members, can we just maybe seek clarification why Wales has adopted but England hasn't, or what?
Maybe so, yeah.
But we're happy content to note the statutory rule anyway. Okay, members, moving on for our. Okay, members, moving on to our next piece of business is the departmental update on the North West Regional College Action Plan. So, could I just welcome along Dr. Mary McIver, the Director of Further Education for the Department of Employment and Learning, Mr. Andy Cole, Head of Corporate Governance and Accountability for the Department, Mr. Gerald Finnegan, the Temporary Chair of the Board of Governors, North West Regional College, and Mr. William Laverty, Change Manager for the North West Regional College. Members, your briefing pack is there from page 85 of your packs. Folks, you're very welcome this morning, and especially welcome, I suppose, to Gerald, as your first time here as the Temporary Chair of the Board of Governors for NWRC. So, Mary, over to you. If we could have,
yes,
we have had your briefing documents, so maybe about a 10-minute lead in at most.
Okay, that's okay. I'll say something, I'll ask Andy to say a little bit more detail, and then Jared to put the college view. It's now almost 1 year since the review of industrial relations at North West Regional College was published, and I think it's worth briefly recapping some of the major actions that have taken place since then. The college has confirmed and reaffirmed its commitment to McConnell and its recommendations. The college has appointed a change manager, and William's with us today, as a dedicated resource to manage this process. The chair of the governing body, and I did mention this last time I was here, Bertie Faulkner, resigned on the 31st of December, and Gerard Finnegan has been appointed as temporary chair until the 31st of March. A public appointments competition is currently underway for a new chair. Both the previous chair and the temporary chair have worked tirelessly and with great energy to make progress on McConnell and with the action plan, and we'll get into a little bit more detail with you on that today. The principal, Seamus Murphy, has confirmed his intention to retire at the end of this academic year, and the college will be running a recruitment exercise for his successor when a new chair is appointed. The college is now 6 months into the implementation of the action plan. Members can see the progress which has been made and the areas where progress is behind schedule. And obviously the department is monitoring in depth. And I can say that where progress has not been made, there are good sound reasons for that, and some of those we're likely to discuss. On assessment of progress, members of the committee will have a copy of the most recent action plan in front of them. You'll be aware that the period since the last update coincided with the Christmas break. However, there are some significant actions to note. The Joint Consultative Committee met for the first time in December, and that's the reconstituted committee, the terms agreed by all parties. The college has held the first meeting with its curriculum managers to discuss their role in the college. Members will also note there are a number of items which are behind schedule and they're unread in your action plan. The first one is the new HR strategy. The college had initially included this as part of the wider development plan for the college when it put it out to consultation. On balance, it's decided that it merited separate focus and scrutiny, and has decided to extend the time taken to consult on the HR strategy. And we're content that that's reasonable, because some of the issues raised in McConnell are about actions and plans on the HR side. The second issue is training for the governing body. Members will appreciate the time constraints that governing bodies operate under, especially given the fact that they are all volunteers. The North West governing body has prioritised and been trained on the challenge function, and that really was the key element of training that McConnell mentioned. The Department is satisfied with this approach and has been given assurances that the outstanding training will be delivered in the current academic year. The Department thinks it's important to have a realistic assessment of the rate and scale of progress and the risks associated with such a project. In the Department's view, progress is satisfactory. In fact, the action plan in front of you has remarkably few items behind schedule. I'd now like to ask Andy Cole to take you through some of the detail of the assessment of the important issues around this topic. We appreciate that this will touch on difficult issues, and some of those we've discussed on other occasions, but it's important that members are able to make judgments on the Department's assessment of the situation. Andy.
Chair, I'll move through this as quickly as possible. Throughout this process, it's been suggested that the College is not committed to the process or to implementing the McConnell report. That is not the case. The College is very much committed to the process. Mr Finnegan and Mr Faulkner, as chairs of the governing body, have committed an enormous amount of time to these issues, over and above what could reasonably be expected from a voluntary position. This is on top of their considerable existing workload at the College. I can also provide assurances to the committee that this commitment is shared by members of the senior management team. The difficulties in industrial relations since the redundancy and redeployment programme at the College have been disruptive and have made managing the College difficult. The McConnell report has offered senior management a way to resolve these issues and to normalise relations within the College. Members should appreciate that it is in the interests of senior management to implement the McConnell report. The committee will also be aware that the local UCU branch has been raising the issue of the redundancy and redeployment programme in the College in 2010-11. We also understand that UCU wishes the College to address its grievances around the redundancy programme as a gesture of goodwill under McConnell. It's disappointing that the Union continues to campaign on this issue, because the College needs to learn the lessons of the past and move on together, rather than continued debates and arguments with no possible avenue of resolution. The committee will have received correspondence from the College about the redundancy and redeployment programme in the last couple of weeks. This correspondence provides much detailed financial and performance data which inform that decision. You will also be aware that this issue has been reviewed by PricewaterhouseCoopers, the subcommittee of the governing body, and individuals have also taken their cases to tribunal. While the Department understands that individuals disagree with this decision, it is also the case that the College must be able to organise its business in a way which it sees fit and is appropriate for its business needs. The College will acknowledge that the process could have been handled better. However, it was entitled to make those decisions. It had a sound rationale for the decisions, and it implemented the decisions in accordance with agreed procedures. The College has to move on from this issue. It is unreasonable to expect the College to perform effectively and deliver services to meet the needs of businesses and individuals if it has to continually review and justify decisions which were taken 3.5 years in the past for sound business reasons. I'd like to state clearly the McConnell report as a whole is the way in which grievances about the redundancy programme will be addressed. Channels of communication are always open for the local UCU branch to begin the process of engaging constructively with the College for the benefit of their members, other staff in the College, and the College's students and stakeholders. Members will recall that Mr McConnell identified trust throughout the organisation as the crux of the matter. It is clear from the McConnell report that he envisaged management and unions looking for ways to show their goodwill over time. The governing body and management have started this process by developing and implementing the action plan. UCU must provide reciprocal examples of its goodwill. The Department is concerned that UCU do not appear to be enthusiastic about changing how it operates within the College. The McConnell report made it clear that UCU had two obligations. The first was to re-engage with the local industrial relations machinery in return for management beginning the process of developing a strategy to rebuild trust. We're now 12 months after the McConnell report, 9 months after publication of the action plan. Agreement was reached with regional UCU officials about the local IR machinery. However, local UCU is still not engaging. McConnell also said the UCU must make efforts to resolve issues within the college. It's disappointing the UCU engaged the committee and local media in relation to the CIT issue, but of more significance, it has recently also stopped engaging with the change manager at the college. Again, this is a disappointing development and raises concerns about the UCU's commitment to the overall process. McConnell observed that unions and management had engaged in confrontation and now needed to learn new behaviours and ways of interacting that were constructive rather than destructive. The department has noted that the major examples of progress in the last year have occurred when groups and individuals have been engaged constructively in the process and have worked with the change manager to bring about improvements in the college. We continue to encourage UCU to engage. The development of trust and the normalisation of industrial relations at the college requires leadership and commitment from all sides. I can assure the committee that the governing body and the senior management team are committed to the process and have been providing leadership and direction to college staff. More importantly, they are committed to making the college the best which it can be. We collectively need a strong college in the North West to provide essential services to businesses and individuals. I would now like to hand over to Gerard to introduce himself and outline his role and approach.
Mr Chairman, thank you. Good morning members. My name is Gerard Finnegan and I am currently the temporary chair of the North West Regional College. I have been a member of the governing body since 2011 and I am also chair of the audit committee. In November 2012, the governing body and the senior management team set a goal for our college to be the best FE college in Britain and Ireland. By best we mean the best teaching and learning environment for students, we mean the best working and learning environment for staff and management, and the best skills provision for the economy, and the best return on the funding entrusted to us from this department. I took up this position in early January for a period of 3 months, and I have spent almost all of my time engaged in issues relating to the McConnell report and in industrial relations in the college. These are very difficult and very important issues. They affect the lives of staff and of management in the college. I am privileged to work with very positive people in other strands of my working life, and I also work with positive people at the college. But there is a mood and tone surrounding McConnell that makes progress in these matters very, very hard won. Nonetheless, progress there has been. The governing body and the senior team accepted the McConnell recommendations in their entirety. We negotiated an agreed action plan with 79 actions, and William will talk about these later. And we employed a change manager, William, to be the independent arbiter of the implementation of that plan. 69 of these actions are complete or on schedule. We are learning all the time. This is a learning exercise for us all. Things don't always go as they're intended. One such issue was a decision to transfer the oversight of some actions in the McConnell Action Plan away from the College Improvement Team, CIT, which hadn't yet met, to the governing body. This was a pragmatic decision taken in good faith by the change manager and the former chair in conversation with the department. It was meant to close a temporary gap in oversight of the McConnell Action Plan. The change was implemented without consultation. That is, making the change without consultation, was unfortunate, and we have learned from that. The reaction to that change has cost us all 3 months and caused both sides, not one side or another, both sides, to question the shared commitment to rebuilding trust in this process. But it is a learning matter, and we have learned from it. The CIT oversight has been restored, and the actions which CIT has oversight on continue to be on schedule. The governing body is looking for positivity in all of this. Hard work and commitment to the college being the best that it can be. We are asking people to do what they know to be right for the college and to treat people as they would want to be treated themselves. These are the two guidelines that we have put on this process from the start. We are finding these things in our work, and we're finding these things in the work of the management. This committee can be assured that the governing body is resolved to work on these issues, seeking positivity and progress. We continue to invite everyone to do the same. We have created spaces where people can engage positively around these issues, and invitations remain open for all sides to join in this conversation. We expect to be challenged in our approach, but in a constructive way. Any other sort of conversation, we believe, undermines the very thing we're trying to rebuild here, which is trust. So we are committed to this college being the best that it can be. We want to be focusing on delivering on the skills agenda for Derry and the wider North West. We want to be doing more in maths, we want to be doing more in science, we want to be doing more in engineering, in healthcare, and we want to be doing more in supporting locally owned businesses to grow. While we are concentrating so much of our time, and all of my time to date has been spent on this, albeit very, very important issue, we're not doing enough work on these other things, and that's of a concern to me and for my governing body colleagues. The college has been on a difficult journey over the past number of years, but we are moving towards a better place now. We have learnt, and we will learn more from this journey. The governing body has committed the college to an ambitious improvement programme. Overcoming our industrial relations issue is an integral part of that programme, but we also need to work on building a management culture where leadership thrives, improving our performance, especially in areas such as STEM, and communicating all of this with effect. And we have work to do on all of those matters, and we understand that. As a governing body, we have focused on the things that we can control. We have provided leadership, and we are increasing our openness in our work. We have worked on how we discharge our oversight role. We have much more of a two-way engagement with senior management than before. But this comes with its challenges, not least of which is the demand on the time that this makes on us as a voluntary board. We're implementing McConnell in good faith. We would ask you to recognise that. We are up to very big, important things here, and everything will not go according to plan. But we will continue to learn from this as we go. We look forward to a positive engagement today here on the McConnell Action Plan. As I said, there are 79 actions in that plan, and 69 of them are on schedule. We're investing more time on other actions. Some of them are delayed because we want to spend more time on them, and Mary has alluded to a couple of those. And some of them were delayed just due to the necessary prioritisation that comes with implementing such a plan. The governing body expects that everyone who works in the college delivers value and feels valued, that management is open and transparent about the decisions which it takes and makes, and that everyone in the college is working to improve their performance in the working environment. That for us is the best college in action. Mr. Chairman, I am not used to this sort of environment, so I don't know what the speaking protocols are, but I will be seeking your assistance and keeping me right with all of that. And I thank you for your time.
No problem, Gerald. Gerald, thank you, and thank Mary and Andy for the presentations. Gerald, one thing I will say from the outset is don't be under any illusion that this committee isn't here to ensure that the North West Regional College is going to be, or pushed to be, the best that it can be.
Thank you.
Because that's why this committee is here, and this is why we've taken such an active interest in the action plan.
And we appreciate that.
To ensure that it does deliver all of the action points, even the difficult ones.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're here to challenge the department and the governing body where necessary and when necessary to ensure that results.
And we acknowledge that.
Just on the one point you raised there, you said that this committee had received correspondence from the college. We've no recollection or record of receiving. We have received direct correspondence from William Coyle. Now, whether that's formally on behalf of the college, I thought that was actually on behalf of him as an individual. He has copied us in on all the correspondence between himself and the college. We haven't received actually anything from the college.
I understood that it had been done. I'll check that up.
Right.
It was in my. If you've seen the response, you will have seen the last line of the response where I said it was intended that it be sent. If it hasn't been sent, that is an oversight. But it has certainly was my intention, and I'll check it out.
Right. That's
If it has been sent.
We have the correspondence, but it's
The
through William Coyle as an individual rather than the
take
college.
that point.
So
Take that point.
you asked for learnings. There's
There's a learning for me.
very much so, and it's a simple one at this stage. One thing I will ask, and it concerns me, and I've heard this before, and it's in regard to training. And I sit personally as a governor on a board of governors for 2 secondary schools and a grammar school. And one of the things the North Eastern Education and Library Board insists on is that I don't sit as a governor on that board of governors without the appropriate training. And I just find that our board of governors are volunteers, they don't have time, they're very busy. I can't accept that, I think, as a valid reason at this minute in time, especially in the conditions that the North West Regional College is going through. In 15.11, you mentioned the points in your action plan that you are falling behind on. And it's that subject training and identifying training needs, and it's also something I think that William Coyle raised in his correspondence between yourselves and the college. That he received no formal training before doing that. I've been involved in redundancy cases through, as well through that board of governors role, and we couldn't sit on it without receiving training. Is that department failing here? Should the department be insisting that that's training done?
The department does insist in training, and every governor goes through a day's induction in which they cover all of the aspects of governance, the role, the responsibility, the auditing. And also all governors are invited every year for a refresher. This year we had quite a few governors come back for that. And you can't sit on a governing body without having that. The training that McConnell is referring to is very specialist training. First of all, in conflict management, that wouldn't be a normal set of training that we would give governors, but because of the particular issues in North West, that training has been done. Again, because of the issues raised with him, he then asked for additional subject training. And as Gerard has said, the governing body has had a lot of training this year, and they will get the subject training, but that has to be prioritised.
But if I might add, Mr. Chairman, in relation to the training, the conflict training, or the I can't remember what the exact term for it was. The conflict challenge function training. That was it. The challenge function training that we took on. Part of that training was a self-assessment by each of the governors who took part in that training of their training needs, and that self-assessment is currently being processed as a follow-on to that. So some of it, there were 2 aspects, there were 2 parts of that training that we were asked to interact with in particular. One was personal training matters for me as a person in relation to this. And the second one was matters for the governing body as a corporate group. Now, those returns from that training have been sent back to the governing body secretary, who's processing those at the minute, and that will give us, that's basically the scoping of the subject matter training that's intended here.
Can I also say that this year we have undertaken an appraisal of each governing body appraising itself, a very comprehensive set of measures, and one of those was to look at training needs. So we now have that for all individual governors and all governing bodies of all FE colleges, and that's something that we will determine whether there's additional training that is needed. One of the issues we face is that governing bodies do have restricted time, so training needs usually to be fitted within the governing body itself, and certainly the training that Andy and I would do with the governing body would be in the meeting, where we would go and we would do a slot, and that's, so training is in kind of bite-sized pieces to accommodate the time.
In reassurance, Chair, all governors have been trained at induction and received specialist training for specific roles in terms of audit committee, etc. McConnell identified some additional training. Some of that has taken place, the rest of it's been prioritised. The gap on our side of the Code of Governance still requires training, was implemented in 2012, and initial training was provided, so that's refresher training that we need to go back, and we'll do that prior to the end of this academic year, and it was a prioritisation issue, just in agreement with the college.
And just in relation to the self-assessment piece, that self-assessment was used by the governing body in connection with the training provider to build that training that we've just done. So all of that has been fed back into the loop. So we're using all of the pieces of documentation that we can, and taking. I hope you'll take from the answers that we're taking the training requirement very seriously, and that we're trying to scope the right training for us and to get it done. And we've committed to the department, and we commit here to having that training complete by this academic year.
It will be completed by
Well,
this.
in this academic year.
It will be completed.
It will.
No, and I appreciate that. I know I'm looking at the deadlines again. You know, identifying the training needs, but you're talking, you know, you're undertaking. You're going to. The target for that was actually June of last year. To identify what specific training needs, and it was up to the director of HR services and the governing body to do that.
And as the chair has said, those training needs have been identified and they're with the HR director at the moment. But while they're being identified, training has been taking place. We've mentioned the conflict training, as I call it, but it was that's not what the governing body called it. That has been taking place. And
Mr. Chairman, we hear your concern
Yeah.
in relation to the training.
And we will be coming, you know, be aware of something will come back. Andy, just touching on one thing before opening this out, you mentioned the Code of Governance and the review and the training on that as well. That's another outstanding point, and the Code of Governance will, I'm reading here, the Code of Governance will be confirmed as soon as practical following training on the Dell Code of Governance. Was due September 2013, but now scheduled for this month. Where are we on that?
It still hasn't taken place, Chair, in discussion with the college is the issue around prioritisation. We're content that the code's in place. The code outlines the modus operandi of the governing body and rules and responsibilities. That was put in place and initial training provided on it in 2012. We have an action here that we need to refresh that, flowing from McConnell, and we'll do that again before the end of the academic year in agreement with the Chair, just when that can take place.
So rather than September 13, it's going to be the end of this academic year?
Before the end of this academic year, as and when the Chair determines.
We have profiled that commitment, and the commitment is to have it done this academic year, and we hear your concern.
Yeah. The simple thing, you know, I appreciate you hearing my concerns. It's the actions I want, Gerald, you know, and these timelines and the documentation I have in front of me, you know, is saying February 14. If you have shifted that deadline prior to this meeting, I think it would have been better that we had received the up-to-date deadlines that you were working to, because maybe it wouldn't have had the challenges been put forward that we are here today. Phil?
Thanks, Robin, and thanks for the presentation. Gerard, you're very welcome into your position, and I'm sure the committee all wish you well in your position, and I think the attitude that you bring is very welcome, and I think it is striking the different attitude that we're getting from the presentation today compared to the last time there was a presentation on this report, particularly with regards to the implementation of the action plan and the oversight and the unilateral changes that were made to it. So can I ask why that policy has changed? Because the last time Mary was here, we were told that the amendments that had been made to remove the change implementation team from monitoring or implementing it, or for oversight, we were told that the changes that had been brought in provided a better line of accountability, and that Mary said she was not terribly happy with the other way, which was the old way, and that to change it was a decision of the governing body. So what has changed to make the governing body go back to the original proposal?
Well, what has occurred is that we've reflected on both avenues that were open, both alternatives. As I said, back in November 2012, the governing body and the senior management team set this goal for the college to be the best that it can be. That goal included setting up a college improvement team. It was intended to set that college improvement team up early 2013. I'm picking this off the top of my head, so forgive me, but early 2013. Then McConnell reported, and we took the decision at that time that it was an appropriate decision. We still feel that the McConnell report should take priority, and that we would put together the processes which you've heard described in relation to all of that, the action plan, the change manager, so on and so forth. When it came to, as part of that action planning piece, it was agreed that the number of the actions, and I think some 20 of them, right, some 20 actions would be, that the oversight arrangement in relation to those would be delegated to the college improvement team. I'd like to go back to McConnell's recommendation, McConnell's recommendation was that the governing body should take a strong oversight role in all of this. So the overall oversight role in all of this rests with the governing body. It has always rested with the governing body, and it remains with the governing body. What happened in the interim was that there was an agreement made in the negotiation of the action plan that some of those actions, the oversight of some of those actions, would be delegated to the college improvement team. It became apparent that the college improvement team had not yet had its first meeting. So a decision was taken, and I referred to it in my speaking notes, a decision was taken in good faith to close that apparent oversight gap in relation to the McConnell Action Plan. The decision was taken and implemented without consultation, and we hold our hands up in relation to that part of it. And we have had this discussion with the college improvement team. The proposal within the college improvement team was to restate, put back in place exactly what was intended in the first place. And that proposal went to the governing body last night and was carried. So we've put back in place exactly what was intended in the first place. And further to that, we've acknowledged and put back in place that, that the manner in which that change was made was unhelpful and unfortunate, and in particular, that the change ought not to have been made without consultation. Key learning point in relation to all of this. So I hope that, Mr. Flanagan, answers your question. The overall oversight role, McConnell was very, very clear. McConnell said that the senior management team should lead the implementation of McConnell. I can't remember the actual 15 point something. And it was also very, very clear that the governing body should take a strong oversight role in all of this, and we take this very, very seriously. So when that decision was taken, as I said, in good faith, in a conversation between the department, the change manager, and the former chair. It was a temporary decision to fix what seemed to be a temporary gap, and as soon as we have been able to do it, we have rectified that.
No, and I think that, as Gerard has said, that's exactly right. It was a pragmatic decision because the college improvement team was not in place. We were very keen, from the department's point of view, that there was a mechanism there to monitor the McConnell report. The college improvement team would have been reporting through to the governing body, so because it wasn't there, the McConnell action then was overseen directly by the governing body. Both methods are equally valid. I think the advantage of them reporting through to the governing body for the initial few months of McConnell was that there was real focus on the McConnell actions. As the Chair has said, the McConnell actions are now subsumed as part of the college improvement plan, and therefore we are back to that form of monitoring. But it was a purely pragmatic decision to make sure that there was monitoring.
And I would just like also to say, if you don't mind, sorry to cut across you, Mary. I'd like also, I think it's important that everyone would understand the role and remit of the college improvement team.
Well, just when you're stating that, can I ask you to compare the role of the college improvement team and the change implementation team, because that's something that seems to be
The college improvement team and the
change implementation team.
there is no change implementation team.
College improvement
It's a
team,
college,
see-
there has been a confusion about the nomenclature. Is that the term for it?
CIT, I think. So.
CIT, and people have had different views about what it is. Let me just clear all of that up if I can. There is a college improvement team. The college improvement team was born out of the aspiration of the governors to have the best college in Britain and Ireland. That college improvement team was to look at three main areas of improvement: leadership and management, performance and targets, and communication and profile. Those were the three areas. We've called them different things at different times, but in essence those are the three areas. We have always been clear that that's the overall improvement programme for the college. McConnell is clearly, McConnell and Industrial Relations is clearly a very, very important part of leadership and management. And the leadership and management, which is why we have always had, in the governing body, have always had a preference for the college improvement team, the oversight of our oversight, the governing body's oversight of the McConnell Action Plan to be played out, reviewed, questioned, challenged in the context of this wider college improvement process by this wider college improvement team. The college improvement team includes members from the governing body, it includes members from the senior management, it includes members from the middle management, and includes staff representation. So it's the whole college family, it's the whole piece. And we have always, Mr. Flanagan, hoped that our oversight and the college improvement team's oversight of particular parts of McConnell would be open to scrutiny in that wider field within the college. It would just make for a much better interaction on these matters. So it would be integrated completely with the overall improvement programme for the college. Now, absolutely yes, McConnell has been given its priority, and McConnell still has the priority. So we're not suggesting in any way, shape or form that because we're now talking about college improvement team in the wider sense, that we're taking our foot off the gas or our eye off the ball or any of those other things you might say about McConnell.
But can I take you back to your first sentence? You said there's no such thing as a change implementation team.
The change implementation team, I don't understand what the change implementation team is.
Well, I have a quote here from Dr. McIver the last time we were briefed on this issue, and it says the change implementation team comprises mainly senior staff and the governing body. So that's who the change implementation team is?
Well, let me clear that up. The term, and I hope that it was clear, the terminology that's correct in all of this is the college improvement team.
So where did the phrase the change implementation team come from?
I think that was your phrase initially last time.
There's a couple of other observations, Chair, just around that particular issue of the CIT. It might be useful to draw out. Williams' correspondence to the staff group in January, the department were encouraged that provided an open and transparent explanation of that change to the action plan and the CIT dropping out of it the last time, which was a pragmatic decision. But that evidence is new modes of working and communication with staff, and acknowledging that it was an unfortunate change, and we're encouraged now that the CIT is in place. The other issue that's useful to draw from learning lessons around it is that the way it was handled outside of the college and the change and unilateral changes made to the action plan, and the action plan being in crisis, were played out in the media through press releases. And such engagement with the media only served to undermine the trust that everyone's working so hard to develop. And I suppose when the temporary chair came into post, one of his first actions and priorities was to examine that issue, get the CIT up and running, and get it in place. So the lesson for us all there is engagement within the college.
And Andy, with all due respect, the reason there's a problem with trust in the North West Regional College is not because of press release any member of this committee put out. The McConnell report was brought in because of problems with trust. You can't blame members of this committee for problems with trust.
Phil,
Chair, for acting
the
on
problems-
record, I'm not,
Phil,
I have not
he
made that
didn't
point.
mention any member of this committee on the press releases.
I'm not mentioning, that's not the point I was making, Chair. The point I'm making is that engagement within the college is the way to build trust and to take these issues forward. We're encouraged that the CIT is now in place. When we came to the committee in November, it wasn't in place, and that's why the change was made. It was a pragmatic change at the time.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yeah, Jim.
In relation to the important point here, Mr. Flanagan, is that it is the college improvement team. That's the important point. So any misunderstandings in relation to that, I would like to set aside right from here on in. That it is the college improvement team, and the college improvement team is a cross-college team that has been put in place with representation that I've discussed, that is there to build a college improvement programme which will focus on those three things: leadership and management culture, performance against key indicators, and the way in which we communicate. The role and remit, the college, I think it's important that we get this onto the record. The college improvement team's remit is a strategic entity. It's a project board to design and put in place and oversee a college improvement programme. It's not an operating body, it's a strategic body, so it will have an oversight role within the college of people doing improvement things. The implementation of the programme will be delegated throughout the organisation by way of working groups, so staff will be absolutely involved in all of this. It is not, nor is it a negotiating body, so notwithstanding there are staff representations and all the rest of it in it, it's not a place for people to come and negotiate their positions. They're there to drive the college forward. In the same way as I'm at the governing body, not as a business, although I come from the business sector, I am not there to represent the business sector. I'm there to do that job in that forum at that time. So a terms of reference has been agreed. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things on it, one of which is oversight of McConnell, parts of McConnell that was agreed for it. So all of that has been put back into place and it's been integrated into the wider college improvement programme. Membership has been agreed and it's cross college. There has been a request from unions, staff representation, to have the staff representation increased, and we're looking at that. We're in discussions with all of the unions at the minute to see how we can widen the staff engagement in relation to all of this, because I think that's very important. And we've defined who comes, and we've also defined very clearly what CIT does with McConnell. And what CIT does with McConnell, and in relation to McConnell, is that it carries out its oversight role on the agreed actions, as was agreed in the context of the wider governing body oversight of the whole programme. So I hope that helps to lay out some of the misunderstandings in relation to all of that.
Appreciate that. Moving on, Pat.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning. I think your earlier comments, Gerard and the Chair as well, I think we're all in a position to try and ensure that any of our colleges in Northern Ireland are meeting the challenges of the department, whether it be in STEM, whether it be in NEETs, whether it be in apprenticeships, whether it be in youth training. And we're all clear about that, and I, for one, for the record, want to place the contribution that North West College is doing in relation to those, ensuring that our young people have a better opportunity. But also, in doing so, I have to reflect the serious concerns that I've had over a number of years, and I will reflect them, Chair, in a few minutes' time. Just a few questions in terms of, particularly to the Acting Chair and the Department. Since Harry McConnell's report was produced, how many meetings at your request were sought from UCU formally?
How many meetings from the department's perspective?
To meet UCU, or from the Chair or the previous Chair, how many meetings were sought with UCU in relation to McConnell?
Well, I can answer that on behalf of the department. None.
That's fine.
Gerard,
Well, I wouldn't know how many. The former chair, as you know, was dealing with all of this. And the former chair, I understand, corresponded with the committee in relation to all of that prior to Christmas. So I understand, Pat, that the former chair put that on record. I don't know how many meetings. All I do know is this, is that Bertie, was engaged with the regional officials and the local officials on this on a constant basis. I really couldn't tell you how many meetings he had, but I do.
How many meetings since you became Chair have you sought, given that you have said your time has been taken up since your appointment on McConnell, how many meetings have you sought with UCU?
I sought 2, and I've sought 2 meetings, and those meetings have occurred. And the discussions in relation to those meetings I wish to keep between myself and the union for this at this moment in time, because they're rather delicate discussions. In relation to the first meeting, by the way, Pat, was within the very first week.
At your request?
At my request.
Did you find those meetings from UCU, did you find the UCU members intimidatory? Did you find them threatening? Did you find them disruptive? Did you find them destructive?
I don't, like I said, those meetings, I think I prefer to keep my discussions with the UCU and the UCU representatives. And by the way, you will understand, Pat, that this is all very delicate. And you will understand that that some of the people in the college have different hats on them. So at some points, some people are governors, and at some points, some people are UCU members, and at some people are lecturers, and at some point, some people are chairs. So we all have different hats and different roles. I have met with members associated with the UCU on 2 occasions.
In respect to Connell,
Sorry?
in respect to the Connell report.
In respect to all of this, which includes McConnell.
I think in addition to any formal requests or meetings the Chair may have had with UCU, there's a framework there for all of the stakeholders to engage through, including UCU and the other staff representative groups, JCC for example, CIT for example, so that's the mechanism to engage. Also important to highlight the change manager, who will have met on frequent occasions around McConnell specifically with UCU. Is that fair to say, William?
Pat, let me be clear about this. We believe that the only way to build trust here is engagement in a sensitive way in relation to these matters. Now, you asked me what my meeting was like with the UCU people. I found the meeting a difficult enough meeting. But that's fine. These are difficult things we're dealing with.
You didn't feel threatened or bullied by the meeting?
Look, in terms of threatening and bullying, I really don't think that it's helpful to be introducing whether I felt threatened or bullied or not.
I'll tell you why I've asked the question. Because we have a senior departmental official, Andy Cole, coming here today and very clearly making it obviously clear, painting a picture. It's like Groundhog Day to me of 2 years ago when the previous chair came on here and played the sole blame game on lecturers within the college for all the difficulties in industrial relations that we have had in the North West College for the past 5 or 6 years. He used the terminology, they are destructive. That was his word, not mine. I find that appalling. And circumstances. And the other questions I want to ask, because this is...
Can I respond to that, Chair, please, in due course?
Yeah, in due course, but what I want to do, Pat, is I don't want to get any Groundhog Day here either. I want to move, with Gerard here in front of us as the
There's a
new chair.
Groundhog Day, unfortunately, is the case.
I think we have to give Gerard his place here.
And I will give him his space, and it's certainly reflecting even on this meeting coming here today. I was hoping we weren't in this place again. I really was hoping we weren't in this place. But, when scores and scores and scores of people have been coming to me in relation to feeling bullied, feeling threatened, and that culture of intimidation which Harry McConnell identified. But it's strange now that when all these industrial relations came to a head and Harry McConnell produced his report, there was a concession here today that an apology that they should have done it better, that they alienated one of the key players in that UCU by bringing unilateral changes to an action plan without any consultation. Surely somebody with a bit of common sense would say, this is going to create further tensions in the college. I find it incredible, and I really find it disgraceful, that given the intensity of the issues involved in this here, that UCU were not involved in any way with either the previous chair or the now chair in looking at and trying to get a consensus around the action plan for the implementation of McConnell.
Andy's going to respond first to the piece, and then I would request...
Certainly, Andy.
Please, Mr. Chair.
Chair, and Pat, with respect, I didn't make any comment in terms of UCU being disruptive. For the record, what I said is McConnell observed that unions and management had engaged in confrontation, now needed to learn new behaviours and ways of interacting that were constructive rather than destructive. That is what McConnell said, and it applies to all groups. In terms of UCU today, we have to provide evidence and provide you with a balanced, objective, measured assessment of our progress of implementation of the action plan. There's three key stakeholders in that action plan: the governing body, the senior management team, and UCU. If the governing body weren't stepping up to the mark today, we would be providing you an assessment of that. Likewise with senior management. This is not goodies or baddies. McConnell reflected, the point scoring reflected poorly on everyone. Everyone wants to see, including the department, very much so, the chair and the governing body and the college, for everyone to be at this table engaging.
But would you not
What we're
feel...
encouraging
just-
UCU to do, and all stakeholders to do. Where we've seen progress in this action plan, 69 out of 79 on target, is where people have engaged. That is positive and constructive. I encourage that to continue to happen. I am not holding and do not intend to hold anyone out as an example, but everyone in this process needs to be accountable, and the process is difficult. There will be progress made, there will be steps taken back, but everyone's on the same page here and moving this issue forward to the better of the college and to all the stakeholders including UCU.
But you
Gerald,
not...
sorry, Pat, just let Gerald has to come in.
In relation to all of this, Pat, we have made our best efforts over recent times to create structures and create spaces where people can engage in these matters without point scoring, without blaming anyone. I have no interest or intention of blaming anyone for anything here. No interest or intention on it. My interest and intention and my leadership is about creating space for people to engage in this process in a positive way. I absolutely believe that we have created that space in relation to the college improvement team. I think we've created that space in relation to JCC, and I think we've created that space in relation to employing the change manager, for people to have places to go to discuss these matters. The invitation to everyone in relation to engaging in this process in a positive fashion is open to everyone. It will remain open to everyone. The invitation will never be taken away, no matter how many times people decide, by the way, and I want to make this point, decide to make a choice not to come. If people decide to make a choice not to come, I respect that choice. I respect that choice. But we will continue to keep that invitation open. We will continue to work in the way that I laid out in my opening remarks, and we will continue on an improvement plan for this college. And people will I absolutely respect people's choice in this. So if anybody doesn't want to take part or engage, they make that choice. But let me tell you that those people who are engaged in this process, who are actually engaged in this process, and are engaged in dealing with matters in the manner in which we're putting forward today, are seeing change. And I accept that those who are not engaged in it will not be seeing change. I understand that. It's a matter of choice. And the choice is open. The choice is everyone's, mine, yours, his, everyone's. Engage or not. And when you engage, there comes a responsibility with that engagement, and the responsibility is to engage in a positive way. So everything's open, and all of these invitations remain open. Thank you.
But my question has not been answered, Chair. I asked the question, is it good or best practice when one of the key players involved in this McConnell report has been excluded from the action plan changes?
I think, Mr. Chair, I think we've answered that. I think I've answered what happened there. I think we've been very open about what happened there. I think William, in his letter, which is part of the pack here, was very open about what happened there. I think we acknowledged, and we acknowledged in relation to that that change ought not to have been made without consultation, and we have learned from that, and I believe that's been answered.
But
that acknowledgement is there.
It may be there, but one can imagine...
Say, in response to Mr Ramsey, that no one has excluded one party. It's the choice is everyone's. You've heard from the temporary chair. He would really welcome, the governing body would really welcome, the department would really welcome this party who, for the moment, has decided not to engage into the process. McConnell has said that Without dialogue and discussion, there can't be progress. At the moment, there is just one party who is not joining in that progress. I mean, we see, and we are in daily contact with the North West Regional College, a change. And I can confirm that from the department's point of view. More positive attitudes, people joining in, this aspiration of being the best college in Ireland and GB. Actually, staff are now beginning to believe that. So that's all really positive. I would love UCU to be part of that. I would say a plea to them today, be part of that, because it's a positive way forward. We need to change the language. We need to start engaging. And negotiation shouldn't happen in all these little sub-meetings outside the formal structure which has now been put in place by McConnell. That is the place to talk. The other unions are engaged. Other staff who are not members of unions are engaged. Please, UCU, engage, and that's my plea.
Just as a point of correction, the other unions have requested to be engaged, and we're working on that. We haven't actually completed that discussion yet, so just pardon me.
No, thank you for that.
One of the other issues raised, which it would be inappropriate for me not to say, and we have got correspondence from William Coyle. He was part of a paper review panel in relation to redundancies. There clearly is a cloud overhanging this particular issue, and there's no doubt about it. It is the elephant in the room. And is there any resolve or reconciliation? And I say to you, Gerard, in good faith as well, and I take back to Phil Flanagan's point, we're at the new year. I'm not sure if you're going for the chair, permanent chair of the position. But you would need to be in a position to be more, and I say this in good faith, to be the reconciler, to ensure everybody feels meaningful and their part, and they have a sense of pride in the college. You don't want to be with the legacy as the previous chair had. When the McConnell report clearly has identified, there was a legacy of industrial and poor industrial relations within the college. So I'm saying to you, in relation, and I think, Chair, we have got to examine further, because it's our role in terms of accountability, the situation pertaining to the redundancies and the demotion of people in North West College. Mary mightn't like it. Mary might think it's a done deal and everything's been read. I think at some stage we might invite Wally Coyle, who wasn't the cheerleader for UCU and still isn't the cheerleader for UCU, but he has a point to make, and I think we have to listen to him to hear what he has to say.
Can I respond to that?
Yep, sorry, Chair.
In relation to Mr. Coyle, I know Willie Coyle. Maybe you do too. I know Willie Coyle, Pat. And I'd like to put on record now, as I did in that response, I want to put on record my appreciation, my personal appreciation, and the governing body's appreciation of Willie Coyle's courage in standing forward at the time to be part of that subcommittee. Now, Mr. Coyle, we engaged in a very detailed, I was also part of that subcommittee, by the way, for the record. We engaged in a very detailed examination of that business case, and we went through very many of the matters that Willie Coyle put in his request to us in relation to points of clarification and his concern. We went through them at the time, and we decided it was my first action. My very first action was to ring Willie Coyle and say, "Willie, I'll get you a response to that now." And I did. And I spent all of my first month in this post working primarily on that response. And we answered every question that Willie Coyle had in relation to that, and we did it point by point. I sent that response to Willie Coyle, and I invited Willie Coyle in because these are complex issues, very complex issues, and they don't all translate to paper. To be honest with you, they don't all translate to paper. And I offered to Willie Coyle, I said, "Now, Willie, I have this response for you. Willie, will you come in and we'll sit down and I'll explain it to you, and I'll get the people who put the numbers together to explain where they come from for you." He reflected on that and decided not to take up that invitation, and I'm content with that. We then issued this, and we were to copy it to you, Mr. Swan, and I apologise if it never got there. And there was a point-by-point answer to all of his questions. Now, Pat, Willie Coyle has since contacted me and said that he thanked me for... he sent me 2 correspondence on this. One was an email, which he said, "Thank you for your response. I still have a number of questions I want asked. I want answered, and I still wish for my name to be taken off that review." I sent him an email back and said to him, "Well, I will take that position to the governing body, and we will consider it and respond to you in relation to that." We took it to the governing body last evening, and we agreed that, with regret, that we would put a footnote on the report, and that footnote would reflect Mr. Coy's wish for his name to be taken off that report. So, and as far as we're concerned, then that closes the correspondence between ourselves and Mr. Coyle. And I know that the committee was rightly interested in that correspondence and requested Mr. Coyle to come back to us with the questions. We've now answered the questions. Mr. Coyle has responded to me in relation to has responded back to me and said he's got the answers and all the rest of it, but he still has certain concerns and he wishes to have his name taken off. It's not a matter of taking his name off the report because his name is on it, but it is a matter of putting a footnote on it to say that this occurrence has occurred. He also sent me a text. Right? He also sent me a text, and he thanked me in that text for my honesty in relation to that response. And I appreciate that. And I want to go on record now to say that I appreciate Willie Coyle's integrity, and I appreciate Willie Coyle's courage in relation to all of this. And I think that we have dealt with that matter in an appropriate fashion, and as far as I'm concerned, that matter is regretfully closed in relation to our correspondence with Mr. Coyle.
I think, Chair, it's useful to point out from the department's perspective, we were encouraged in how senior management and how the governing body handled that piece of correspondence and the manner in which they responded to Mr. Coyle. It was comprehensive, it was open and transparent. It was something that may not have happened a number of years ago, Pat, but those are the signs of recovery that we're seeing with the trust building. Your management spent a lot of time, obviously, pulling that information together, and Gerard led that and provided that open response to Mr. Coyle. So those are the kinds of things that we're seeing from the department's perspective, the change, slow changes being brought through from McConnell.
Okay, Pat,
Chair,
last point.
I'm nearly finished, and I'll make a couple of general points, but I feel I'm a member of the Northern Ireland Assembly for 10 years now, and I've engaged with every college in Northern Ireland. They've come up here and met with me on a number of issues. They're engaging constantly with me by email. I don't ever recall getting an invitation to the college in 10 years on any subject matter or any discussion. And I say that in the context that I do believe, Gerard, the college has become a wee bit estranged from the wider society and the city. And they have, and that something needs desperately to be done to counteract that.
I hear that.
If they're marginalising and alienating, I meet senior lecturers that know, Chair, as friends, they're afraid to have a conversation with me. They actually send me an email in, Pat, I don't want to be seen talking to you. There's something badly wrong with that.
Yeah, we'd agree, Pat. From the department's perspective, we want to be having discussions with the college on the Minister's priorities and their engagement with local employers and engagement within their community and the region. And that's why we need to implement this action plan and bring these changes forward to allow those more focused discussions on that. We're all on the same page on that. We all collectively around this table, government body, DEL, want to see this move on to make that happen.
And I refer to that. Sorry, Alder.
Sorry, Chair.
Mr. Chair, I referred to that in my opening remarks. We want to be discussing our contribution to helping businesses to grow. We want to be discussing our contribution to STEM. We want to be discussing our contribution to maths. We want to be discussing our contribution to all of these things. We also, on a wider issue, want this committee and this department to be discussing the expansion of the university at McGee. We also want this committee to be discussing with us how this college can deliver on the skills agenda in relation to dairy. I accept, Pat, that all of this, all of it, the stuff in the press, the hurt that's been caused, the whole thing, I accept that that has created a barrier between the college and the community in Derry.
Serious?
I accept it. And what I'm saying to you, Pat, clearly now, is that as long as I'm involved in the college, that college will be, that part of what I seek to do is to rebuild whatever bridges have been broken in relation to that, and to rebuild I mean, that is a community college. And that's what they call them in America. These are community colleges. And it is absolutely my intention, for as long as I'm involved, whether it be in this seat or in the chair of audit committee or wherever. I'm there, Pat, because it means something to me. I'll tell you why further education means something to me. When I was, what age was I? 18, right? I did my A-levels. I wanted to go to Queen's. I did my A-levels, and I didn't do so well. I didn't do so well the first time round. I didn't do so well the first time out because I didn't work hard enough. It was that basic. I didn't work hard enough. But I went to Bangor Tech, and I got involved with the lecturers there, and I got treated really, really well, and I got helped, and I did very well the second time round, and I got a way off, and I did the thing, and here we are. I understand how important it is, Pat, and that's why I'm involved. That's why I give my time to it. And I recognise that this whole issue has caused a fracture. And it saddens me that this whole issue has caused a fracture. But we're working on this now, and we're going to continue working the way I set out at the start of this meeting, that we'll work out. And we have been making progress, and we will make further progress. I'm personally committed to it.
It's hard, Pat, but it's inspiring. It's inspiring when you look at that governing body and see the commitment, voluntary, and the management and the staff throughout the college, the good faith, and the staff themselves and their engagement now. It is inspiring. The college will move forward. We all have to move it forward to change the discussion around this.
And I can confirm that the department will absolutely support the college in that, and you do make a very good point, and the Minister is encouraging Northwest, as he does all the colleges, to reach out to the employers in the area and to make sure that the people in those areas are skilled. So I can just let the Chair know and the governing body that we are behind them in that.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Chair.
Gerald, just to help that process, if it is helpful to you, this committee would be quite willing to receive an invitation from MWRC to go to the college
Thank you.
and either as a visit or hold a meeting there, because we'll back that up, Pat, but I think by actions rather than just words indeed here. Tom Buchanan?
Yeah, just a few issues. I do have a number of concerns, like the Chair earlier, regarding a number of the actions within the plan that have been delayed.
Yes.
Obviously, a number of these are to be reviewed by the governing body. Can I ask how, from you folk last met us at committee, how many times has the governing body met since then to now?
The governing body's probably met twice, December
met last night.
and last night as well. So that's twice.
Twice.
However, we have William on the ground, whose job it is to make sure that this action plan happens. So it doesn't depend on when the governing body meets. And also William will give the department a monthly report, action by action and progress. And where we see that there isn't progress, we'll challenge it. And where we see that there is progress, we will congratulate the department and the college and the staff. So it's not dependent on the governing body actually meeting.
If I might, just say that the oversight of this is a constant thing. I'm in, would it be daily contact with you? And any day you're there. So I would be in daily contact with the change manager, asking questions about what has happened in relation to this action, what has happened in relation to that action. And some of the things that you've seen changed are the result of that interaction. Like, for instance, the change in relation to the human resources strategy is a change that's a change that has occurred because of the conversations that I had with William in relation to that, and because of a conversation that I had with another governing body member who raised a concern. So the concern came to me. I went to William. William and I discussed it. I made a proposal that that notwithstanding it was important to have the human resources strategy consulted as part of the integrated CDP. What does CDP stand for?
College
Development Plan. In the context of where we were and in the context of what McConnell had asked for, it was more important that get its own space. So that's how the changes occur. That's how the oversight works. It doesn't wait until the governing body meets. Now, what happens when the governing body meets is that William goes through the action plan, action by action, and governors get a chance as a whole to have that conversation. But William is in constant contact with me. I'm in constant contact with the senior management team, and not just with Seamus. In my time in relation to all of this, I have spoken to them all.
Yeah, but surely, if the governing body are reviewing the action plan, and as you say, William or Andy goes through the action plan with them and they review it, and there's a number of issues within the action plan been delayed, would it not then need to be that the governing body would be more hands-on on this issue? It's my understanding that the meeting called last night was an emergency meeting of the governing body called prior to this meeting today.
No, it wasn't an emergency meeting. Your understanding is not correct in that regard, with respect. We have a body of work to do, which is a normal body of work. So the Staffing Committee will come with its minutes, the Finance and General Purposes Committee will come with its minutes, the Audit Committee, my committee, will come with its minutes. Right? So you go through all of that, and by the time you've gone through all of that, there isn't enough time to deal with the more strategic issues. So I took the decision, not an emergency meeting, a special meeting. I took the decision to have a special meeting of the governing body for two reasons. One, which was I wanted to bring them up to date with the College Improvement Team. I wish I had the agenda. I wanted to bring them up to date with the action plan. I wanted to bring them up to date with various other things, and I wanted to deal with a number of correspondence, including the COIL correspondence. I wanted to bring it to the governing body so the governing body would see it before it was discussed here. I think it's only appropriate that our governing body should have learned from me last night and from William last night what we might say here on their behalf. So I think it's entirely appropriate that we have a special meeting, and I call special meetings as many times as I feel they're necessary. Not an emergency meeting. There's no emergency required in relation to all of this. It's a signal that I take my work very, very seriously.
Well, we can bandy about words, but we'll just leave it at that. Can I ask you, Cordy, you did say earlier on, sometime through your conversation today regarding McConnell, that everything will not go according to plan. Are you then making the assertion that McConnell may not be able to be implemented in full?
No, I'm not making that assertion. What I'm saying to you is this. This is a very complex situation, which is dealing with people's behaviours, people's hurt, and all that has been experienced. And we might do something and think it's a great idea. Somebody sitting over there think that's an awful idea. So what we might intend in relation to something that's done in all good faith, this is all done in good faith, might not work out. I have never been involved in all of my business life in a plan that has worked exactly as the plan was set out. The only plan that works exactly as the plan was set out is one that's not nearly ambitious enough. We are pushing the envelope here in all of this. It's very difficult stuff. And I cannot tell you what is the next thing that will not go according to plan. But I can tell you there will be one, and I can tell you that we will learn from the CIT piece in relation to consultation around all of that. That's all I can tell you. But absolutely not. You should not take from anything that I say that McConnell will not be implemented in full.
Fair enough. Just one final question. McConnell's almost a year old now. In that time, how have you seen improvement in relationships between the governing body, the management, and the lecturers? Because let's remember that they were the people that felt intimidated and felt the culture of fear within the college. So how do we see now relationships beginning to improve in that circle within the past year?
Well, let me start, and then maybe you can pass in. Or do you want to start?
Yeah, I've started the department's assessment just at that higher level, and Gerard probably give you more detail. We see a commitment and good faith throughout the organisation from the different stakeholders. We see progress being made where they're engaged. We see new modes of working. We see them corresponding. We see senior management, for example, corresponding and engaging with the governing body constructively. The very nature of the chair's relay of last night's meeting and the transparency and why he wanted to hold that with his governors. You know, the way they're engaging with staff and through William's letter, through the COIL correspondence, all those is evidence, all those actions are evidence to us of things coming through in the action plan, of change being affected on the ground. Same with the mechanisms set up in JCC, positive engagement with the college between stakeholders. We're seeing the CIT, positive engagement. We're seeing middle management now involved in course reviews. We're seeing that academia-led rather than senior management-led. So we're seeing changes of behaviour here, and we're seeing trust building from the department's perspective. That's just what we see on the ground.
And we're working with the senior management team on a much more natural two-way relationship with the senior management team than we had a year ago. And it's around this business of creating space for people to do the right thing. So the challenge to us was to do the right thing, and we're doing it. The challenge to the management was to do the right thing, and the other challenge is to treat people the way you expect to be treated. Look, this department has asked of us certain things. I'm going to say it if you don't. We have delivered anything you've asked in relation to this.
You've delivered everything we've asked. I have to just confirm that.
Right. So we have asked, similarly, we have asked of our senior management team things that we need them to do in relation to all of this. And I go on record now as saying that they have delivered everything that we have asked of them up to this point. Now, there is another constituency in relation to all of this. And that constituency so far has chosen to be one step removed from this, a little more distant in relation to all of this. And I understand, as a result of that choice, that they would not be seeing the same sort of change that those who have chosen to be part of it would see. And that's a matter of time for me. And I'm not making any comment on that in relation to fault, blame, anything else. There is no sense of that in relation to our approach to all of this. Our approach to all of this is to continue to do the right thing. Our approach to all of this is for people to put the college first, not Finnegan first, not the department first, not the lecturer first, not the college first. And the college is about the student. And on we go. And that's the conversation we're having. And I can tell you that anybody who's involved in that conversation is seeing a change. And I can also understand why those who have yet to fully engage with it, I'm not saying they're not engaged, it's not that we don't, it's just, right, it's not the way we want it to be. We had a discussion last evening that I shouldn't even be referring to, because we said we wouldn't discuss it, so I'm not referring to it. Strike it off the record.
Yeah, well, can I ask you then again, would the majority within the college now be seeing that change that you're talking about?
Well, I don't want to speculate on that. William is working on a staff survey.
I'll just if I can take that one, I'll just answer the. Probably one of the important things about all this is that there is no solid benchmark. Like that, we're all a little bit somebody said something, somebody else said something else. One of the key McConnell recommendations was to conduct an annual staff attitude survey. Right? I'm working very hard at that at the moment with all the stakeholders to conduct that survey in this academic year, and more importantly get it published in this academic year. And I think until we do that, we won't know. And we've actually not even got any to measure it against, because everything previous was a statement or something from somebody. There's nothing concrete. But when we do this survey, and hopefully we'll have it out by June, July time, there it will be. We will know exactly where we are, good or bad. There will be good points, there will be bad points, but we will have a picture.
I take it committee will get a copy of that report.
Absolutely.
One of the things that the Chair keeps saying to me that resonates with me, that McConnell referred to gestures of goodwill. We're beyond that. It's about genuine goodwill and doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We're not into gestures, and the college aren't into giving gestures and trading gestures. It's about doing the right thing. And, that's why they dealt with Mr Coyle's correspondence how they did. That's why they communicate openly with staff. That's why they're starting to do things differently. So those things are starting to flow through.
It's also for the needed trust, which I think has been established here. Sammy?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I had a few questions I think that we'll already asked, but the final one is that, and it was actually about that whole aspect of goodwill gestures, but it also talks here about rebuilding trust. How do you rebuild the trust if you don't make gestures? Because there's no doubt about it, there's a boil here that needs to be lanced. It's festering. And I think your comments at the very start, Andy, in relation to all unions, but and particularly the UCU union, and you seem to be very frustrated. How do you deal with those frustrations? How do we get to that point? And maybe this is part of William's job in terms of change management, but we all know it's extremely difficult.
No,
How do we get to that point?
You're right, Sammy, and it's difficult. I think, as the Chair's articulated, you just keep the engagement open and keep the invitation open for all stakeholders to engage. All can continue to do is to do the right thing and implement the actions, and slowly, the evidence of that will rebuild trust, and hopefully everyone will come in and be at the table and engage. There has been significant progress in the action plan and some big issues addressed. So it's a slow process. McConnell acknowledged it would be 3 to 5 years. So it's not 79 actions delivered and everybody's happy. This is slow and it's painful. There's hurt.
And just to give you an example of that, from the department's point of view, looking at McConnell and looking at the actions, there was one action where all parties engaged, all of them engaged enthusiastically, and that was on the new joint consultative committee. It took a while. William was in there making sure that parties talked. Eventually they did talk, and they did build a bit of trust, enough trust that they actually agreed a joint document. To me, that was extremely positive. When you get all parties involved, it wasn't easy, and it took time because they all came with their separate documents, but they ended up with one. And that's a demonstration, I think, of how you build trust. And we already have it. It's been done. I'd love to see more of that.
A pace will develop, won't it?
Well, I think, Sam, we can't force this. You cannot force people to trust people. You just do what you know to be right, and you ask others to do what they know to be right, and you keep doing it. And it'll come. It will come. It absolutely will come. And it will speed up when there's more engagement. And we're putting structures in place to have more engagement, and through this college improvement team there'll be subgroups and staff involved in the whole thing, and we'll just continue to do the right thing, Sammy. But it would be, I think, a mistake to try and force it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
just
Chair,
a very quick point.
Yeah, it was envisaged, Chair, that within the McConnell report, as I can recall, that the involvement of the Labour Relations Agency to try and help and assist progress on these matters. Is that something you would consider?
Well, Pat, here's the thing about that. We're talking about building trust, right? We're going to have a go on our own at building trust. We're having a go on our own at building trust. and we're going to continue to have a go on our own about building trust. If it turns out, Pat, that it becomes impossible, for whatever reason, to build trust or whatever, we look at that situation when we come up against it, but I don't think it's impossible. You see, I don't think it's impossible. I think that we continue to do what we're doing, and continue to do the right thing, and when others get a sense of our genuine goodwill in relation to this, like our authentic goodwill, this is not a game. It's not a bartering session. It's not a we'll do this if you do that session from our point of view. This is a genuine process in which we are putting ourselves in front of everyone else and saying, we're here to do the right thing. Now, talk to us about doing the right thing. If it becomes impossible, we'll consider that when it happens. But I'm not in a position at the moment where I think we need to consider that.
Okay.
But in answer to your question, if it becomes impossible, we will look at all of the options open to us in relation to that, and we'll make that assessment at that time.
Okay, no other members have indicated. Folks, thank you very much for your time. And Jared, be assured, you know, the committee is engaged and is seeking the same resolution as you, that we want to see the North West Regional College
I am assured.
serving all the students
I am assured
best as
of
it
that,
possibly
Mr. Chairman.
can.
I am assured, and I noted your kind offer in relation to a visit.
Yeah. Okay. All right, folks, thank you. Okay, members, any other business?
Well, Chair, I certainly, as a member and somebody who represents that constituency, would like to reflect on the presentation made today and respect to any other conversation I have. Certainly, I'm like you. I want to see reconciliation. I want to be standing in the Strand Road in North West College promoting young people's participation. We have a long way to go. I want to hear what other people are saying to me who are constantly making comment, including those who are writing to this committee as well, expressing concern, and at some stage we might have to ask them in here.
That's something we can hold in answers if we need to. Okay, members?
Thank you.
Good job. Members, any other business? Members, if not, date and time and place of next meeting. The next meeting takes place 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 26th of February, in room 29. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
This